Joining us now for War Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ruben. How are we doing?
I'm good.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning.
Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
All righty. Good morning to you, viewers. Let me tell you what is happening around the world. Now, it was Benjamin Franklin. You remember who Benjamin Franklin was? He said that there is no such thing as bad peace or good war. That's what came to mind when US President Donald Trump announced that Israel and Hamas have agreed on the first phase of a ceasefire deal, marking what he calls a major breakthrough in negotiations which have been mediated by Egypt and Qatar. Now, there have been celebrations in Israel and in Gaza. Following the news, the initial stage reportedly includes a pause in fighting, which has caused the celebrations definitely in Gaza, and the release of 20 Israeli hostages and some 200 Palestinian prisoners as early as Monday, though details remain under wraps going forward. It is still believed that Israeli troops will withdraw, but still remain in Gaza. Talks continue in Cairo as diplomats push for a longer-term truce, the dismantling of Hamas in government, and expanded humanitarian access into Gaza. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had this to say on X. He says, with the approval of the first phase of the plan, all of our hostages will be brought home. This is a diplomatic success and a national and moral victory for the state of Israel. From the beginning, I made it clear we will not rest until all our hostages return and all our goals are achieved. Through steadfast resolve, powerful military action, and the great efforts of our great friend and ally, President Trump, we have reached this critical turning point. I thank President Trump for his leadership, his partnership, and his unwavering commitment to the safety of Israel and the freedom of their hostages. So clearly, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is staunchly behind Donald Trump's efforts. Let's move on home to Nigeria, though. We first came across this story during Wednesday's newspaper review, and essentially what's happening is the Nigerian Senate is proposing a 10-year ban from getting an international Nigerian passport after committing a crime abroad and being deported from abroad. Now, this Passport Act amendment bill is sponsored by Niger North Senator Sani Bello, who says it will improve Nigeria's global image and address international stigma, which has led to increased visa restrictions. Now, if we take a look at this picture here, it's a picture posted on X by Interpol. Now, Interpol, the international police organization, released this image of a Nigerian man named Ikechukwu, who was captured in Argentina, where he's been accused of orchestrating thousands of romance scams. Now, it is believed that cases like this would result in this proposed passport ban. So, as a test case, for example, should this ban become law, this is a type of case that would see this ban come into place. Now, we did ask Nigerians here in Lagos how they feel about this proposal. Their views were mixed. Let's take a listen.
It's reasonable, really. It gives them an opportunity to come back home and think about the reputation of the country and the impression that they give foreigners about who we are and what we do.
The years are too much. Them being bounded with our passport bounded with our transport, traveling outside for 10 years is too much. But I think they should just limit the year.
As a matter of fact, it's helping us protect our national sovereignty because when we go outside there, several countries have, the UAE just lifted the ban, I believe, all right, from on Nigerians. And that is because of several vices that we find Nigerians in diaspora engaging themselves in. So this is very important. I think it's a welcome development. If you have to face a 10-year ban because you were convicted of a crime, yes, why not?
Nigeria has this very notorious reputation abroad, so if that is going to at least keep you at home for long enough, it will give you something to think about before you go out and do it again. So
crime is crime. It's against humanity. So you use our name, Nigeria, to commit something over there. We wait for you to come back and get another punishment.
It's going to protect Nigeria's image if they can play that kind of a law.
If I knew that I don't have anything I want to go and do outside Nigeria, you can say that, okay, if I do this, yes, I will still remain in the country. But if you know that, maybe you have something, you have a family, you normally travel out, you understand me, you know that you have to be very careful, you understand me, of every action you want to take.
Oh, we're definitely understanding him. Now, I mean, definitely mixed reactions there. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on whether this will happen. But before we do that, let's move on to newspaper headlines today. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. Now, This Day does lead with, of course, the Nigerian Bar Association, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and several other senior lawyers are calling for the prosecution of former Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji, over this alleged certificate forgery. Now, reports claim that Nnaji presented fake academic and NYSC documents during his screening back in 2023. He has since resigned from office, as we have been reporting, but pressure does mount for his prosecution. Let's take a look at the New Telegraph this morning. The New Telegraph does weigh in on a different story. We are hearing about the House of Representatives rejecting US claims of Christian genocide in Nigeria. This is also a story that's been bubbling a lot of steam. It says that, the nation's violence is not religiously motivated, but driven by insecurity and criminality. Now, lawmakers have called for dialogue to correct this misrepresentation of Nigeria and what is happening in our country outside. Let's take a look at the Daily Independent this morning. The Daily Independent does report on businesses around Lagos being on edge because of plans to tear down the old Murtala Mohammed International Airport terminal. Essentially, businesses are concerned that the disruption would cause higher costs and a loss of income. Now, the Federal Airports Authority says that it is part of a full overhaul to modernize the terminal. So we'll see how that affects businesses in Lagos. To the Daily Sun this morning, and the Daily Sun does report on Enugu State Governor Peter Mba urging entrepreneurs to build lasting institutions beyond personality-driven ventures. He also pledged a business-friendly environment in the state and support for SMEs to ensure long-term growth. Now, also on the front page of the Daily Sun, we are seeing conversations about insecurity. The Nigerian Senate has called on the federal government to establish a permanent military base in Kwara State to tackle the escalating insecurity, including kidnappings, bandit attacks, and community displacement that we are seeing in southwest Nigeria. So we'll see if that materializes into a base. Let's move on to the Leadership newspaper. The Leadership this morning does have the Federal High Court in Abuja again adjourning the trial of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, so this has essentially been adjourned to October 16th. 2025. The adjournment followed the inability of the Nigerian Medical Association panel to conclude its report on Kanu's health condition. The court also directed the panel to submit its finding before the next sitting, while Kanu's legal team renewed calls for his release on medical grounds. So that's what we're seeing on the Leadership. Let's move on to The Punch. The Punch has the Nigerian presidency rejecting the World Bank's claim that 139 million Nigerians live in poverty, calling the figure exaggerating and arguing that it fails to report local accuracies. Now, The Guardian this morning does wade into economics as well. Despite economic reforms over the recent years, Nigerians say the promises of relief for the poor are yet to materialize. Stability may be achieved, but living conditions for many Nigerians do still remain unchanged. Still on the front page, we do have the Federal High Court in Osun State ordering the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to arrest the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, for contempt of court following his failure to comply with an earlier ruling recognizing state chairman elected under Adekunle Rufai Omoaje-led NEC of the Action Alliance. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Finally, let's go on to a UK paper. The Daily Express, yes. Kemi Badenoch delivered her speech at the Conservative Party event yesterday, and she has pledged to scrap stamp duty on main home purchases if the Conservatives return to power. It's like she was listening to what Rufai said yesterday, that she doesn't have any ideas. This is what she's talking about. This is what has been blazed across different UK papers. So essentially, she's saying that it's a bad tax, stamp duty. It says it's a bad tax that punishes aspiration. And she has unveiled her key election pledge at the Tory party conference. The Conservative leader said that the move would make it easier for families to buy a home and boost the housing market. Treasury officials estimate that the plan could cost about £9 billion a year, but Badenoch insists that it will be funded through savings and also through economic growth. Well, let's see the growth. Those are your World Brief stories and your newspapers. Love to hear your thoughts.
All right, so that's the same politics that Liz Truss employed. And they were trying to cut everything where they were going to get money from, that put them in the cul-de-sac they're in today. Don't mind Femi. If you want to have, I said don't mind Femi, Kemi. If you want to have a rounded view, I will mind Femi. I mean, if you want to have a rounded view of what is going on, just go listen to James O'Brien of LBC break down how she was talking live and he was critiquing everything she was saying. Secondly, see, as regards this plan to ban people, aren't we hypocritical in this country that commit crimes abroad? This is the same country that we saw Ashwebi for terrorists. This is the same country that political office holders forge positions and they still get political office. There's forgery everywhere. This is the same office that, after a case of determination of forgery many years ago, people still go ahead to do the highest position in this country. But we don't need people like that on the board. It's innocent Nigerians that must have been framed abroad. Because it's not everybody that commits a crime. People might be framed, actually.
That's actually true.
And you don't give them a chance of recompense. And you say because you want to showboat, you say ban everybody. Please, even if they want to make that law, I think what they should do is that they should limit it to political office holders' crime. Let's start with the politicians. As regards Israel, Hamas, and Gaza, it pretty much reminds me of the joke and the hypocrisy that Israel has always been doing. You just want your own hostages released to you so that you can go back in there and bomb them. Pretty much reminds me of what happened in the Congress of Vienna in 1814, how it led to so many wars. Pretty much what happened in Oslo talks, Oslo 1 and Oslo 2, in 1994, where the likes of some people won Nobel Prize for it. Trump wants to win his Nobel Prize. He can quickly win it now, but is he going to solve the problem? After Oslo 1 and Oslo 2 agreement, what did they agree? Israel was going to leave more land for the Palestinians. Did they do it? Have they not encroached on most of those land in areas like the West Bank? So Israel is not truthful. The Netanyahu government, let me qualify that one. I'm not going to say Israel is not truthful because they are good Jewish people. I keep repeating that. The Netanyahu government is not truthful because we had Israeli government, people like Yitzhak Rabin, that were truthful when we had Oslo 1 and Oslo 2, but he was killed.
All right. Okay. So to the issue around passports. Yes, I understand that because as a deterrent to Nigerians who live abroad, commit crimes, and so coming back home, when you know that is double punishment, as it were, then you would fix up, look sharp if you're living abroad. But I do think it should be extended, very importantly, to those who are, to political office holders, especially who commit crime, even back home here in Nigeria. You know how it is where visas are used as, are used to almost punish corrupt politicians in countries by the US or the United Kingdom, for instance. Maybe we should introduce that if you're found culpable of a crime or convicted back home, then you would have restrictions as well to go abroad. Because since the UK and going to Western countries or traveling seems to be such an attractive part of living in Nigeria, then maybe we should now use it as further punishment for people. But I do think 10 years is quite steep. If you've served time abroad, then why come home and still be punished further for a crime that you've served already abroad? It's a lot. It's steeper. Let's face internal issues and punish those issues first as a step that we want to really deal with infractions like that. Now, moving on to the front page of the Punch newspaper, where the federal government, as we expect, have come out to say that the World Bank is not facing local realities by saying that, and the numbers are not accurate. 139 million Nigerians living in poverty. The first thing I would say is that I think it's high time we had a national population census. It's high time, from the last administration, it was postponed and it couldn't happen, so that we can even have a true picture of the number of people living in Nigeria, and then we can also give our own statistics compared to the World Bank and see whether or not, we can produce our own alternative to the figures that have been released. Beyond that, I think beyond just coming out to, counter statements like that, is to take on some salient points coming out from that report, that the reforms are good, but it doesn't translate to better living conditions for Nigerians. And they gave options around, conditional cash transfer, talking about infrastructure, looking at transparency and fiscal discipline. Those are the things we would like, Nigerians would like to see, better than just coming out to say, oh, they are wrong. What is the true picture then? They can challenge facts with their own facts.
Okay, very quickly. On the passport ban, the extant law is the Passport Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1985, which Senator Abubakar Bello, I think that's his name, from where now? Niger State, is proposing should be amended. So you have this bill, 2024, saying that if a Nigerian has been convicted anywhere in any part of the world, that person will lose his Nigerian passport for an additional 10 years. Now, okay, they say the whole idea is to show that Nigeria is accountable. It's also to compel Nigerians in diaspora to respect Nigeria's image. The Nigerian green passport having become very notorious. And perhaps this would discourage Nigerians who are living abroad in diaspora from committing crimes and giving all of us a bad name. However, two issues. There's something in law called double jeopardy. A man is not expected to be punished twice for the same offense. So if a Nigerian commits a crime, for example, say in the UK, and he goes to jail, maybe for 10 years, for 3 years, even for 1 day, and then his own country now says, we will hold your passport, you cannot have a Nigerian passport for additional 10 years. On the surface of it, it looks like, oh, okay, we are trying to defend Nigeria's image, but it's a very illiterate thing to say, because it amounts to double jeopardy. So you cannot punish a man twice. And these lawmakers who are proposing these things, why don't they seek advice from people who even have an understanding of basic law for some of these gray areas to be pointed out to them? Because the second danger that you will now face will be an abuse of the fundamental human right of that person. The fact that he committed a crime abroad and he was jailed, he has served his time, does not mean his own country, where he did not commit the crime, will now further punish him. We're not running a Sunday school. We're running a country that is governed by law and frameworks. So I think it's not a very important piece of legislative proposal. They let them worry about things, how to make this economy more productive, how to address more substantial issues in the land. But otherwise, what you will face if you pass that kind of legislation will be a deluge of litigations. Yes. People will go to court and say, no, they want to enforce their fundamental human right. Yes. The man will say he has served his jail term in the United States. Why do you have to say he can no longer be a citizen of Nigeria for 10 years? No. Including the criminals who serve time anywhere after they have done so, and those of us who don't even have the mind to commit a crime. We are all citizens, yes. And Nigeria must carry its baggage. Now, quickly, as for the Middle East, Trump has been celebrating on Truth Social that, this is a very standard thing, strong, durable, everlasting peace that is in the works. Netanyahu is also happy that hostages will be released in a matter of days. The various guarantors of peace, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and officials from the affected, countries having met, having indirect talks in the last few days. Fine. Even Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, is also excited. He says that this is a pathway to peace. However, Hamas is saying that, look, the guarantors should ensure that Israel does not change its mind and that Israel respects the terms of the agreement. But in all of this, there's been no focus on disarmament of Hamas. There's been no focus yet on the future of the Gaza territory. However, what is clear now is about prisoner hostage exchange. Israel is looking forward to getting back out of the 48 persons, hostages remaining, 20 who are still alive. And Hamas is also saying, you know, his own people should also be released, and Israel should stop further hostilities. If it happens that way, yes, it will be a good development for world peace, and maybe President Trump, who is now being praised by all the parties, will get a step closer to the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, that he is looking for.
Thank you so much, Adefemi. Always great to see you.